Right. So in today's session, we are going to discuss about the Scrum Master role, especially on the Pega application. So before I'm getting into this session today, I just give you an overview about what Scrum Master is all about and so what Pega application is all about. So as we all know, if we are working on the agile environment now and then, there are different frameworks and processes will be used, something like Scrum, Kanban, extreme programming like XP, all that, DSDM, etc. In this regard, it's always important for a team to manage something, right? So because facilitation is what something which someone has to be taken care of. In this regard, especially whenever we are working on the agile environment, we will be role have called as a Scrum Master role. So Scrum Masters are the people more or less like a team facilitator role, usually who will be focusing more on the team facilitation, right? So facilitating the team, etc. This is what something which being into Scrum Master roles we do. Now, when it comes to the Pega, right? So Pega is a business process management application widely used across industries. It's one of the application where the process management systems or the applications to build by any organizations or enterprises can be built upon. So person who has having experience in Scrum Master and who wants to acquire some knowledge over Pega, or else vice versa, because there will be some people who are already working on Pega environment, maybe on different roles, either maybe a developer role or an architect role or something, where they wants to transform themselves into Scrum Master. This is option number one. Option number two, person working as a Scrum Master in different area where they want to shift to the Pega side, because more or less this is like a technical Scrum Master role, because when we are working for IT projects, especially in IT applications and all, technical knowledge is always important. So technology is a wider term, I can say. Either it can be of any application, either it can be Pega, it can be ServiceNow, it can be MuleSoft, or it can be an Appian BPM tool, right? So there are different tools. Knowledge is always required for a Scrum Master to uh, have a career over the role of a Scrum Master. In this regard, so today I'm going to explain you about so what I teach is even, right? So of course, what I teach and what I train, right? So Scrum Master in context to Pega is what something which I'm discussing in today's session. In this regard, the first point, first of all, this is something for the people who are new to Scrum Master must be knowing. So first of all, we must be knowing about why Scrum Master for any organization or teams. So Scrum Masters are more or less like a team facilitator kind of role where they facilitates the team. I'm talking about the Scrum team, development team. So whenever they are working on application development, facilitation is what something which we have to be performed with. Facilitating the teams is what something being a Scrum Master, one has to be done. Means if there are team consists of 5 to 6 people, so whatever the amount of work they have taken, right? So the kind of sprints they were developing, Scrum Master has to ensure team has to be completed that particular sprint within the specific timelines. Make sure whatever the stories they have taken or the tasks must be done within the timelines. This is where generally facilitation is required. So to facilitate that, of course, there will be different Scrum meetings and all will be conducted as well as review retrospections, all that. This is one area wherein being a Scrum Master we will be doing. Second, resolving impediments, because resolving impediments among team members is also, for example, if there is a sprint which doesn't complete within the specific timelines, or we observe that the team is not performing well as per the request was made, as per the assurance was made by them earlier. So this is what generally we call it as impediments, means what were their drawbacks, right? So are they not technically capable enough to handle it? Is there any deviation taken place based on the sprint goal what they defined so far, right? So is there any deviation over the user stories which they have taken already? This is where generally we're talking about the impediments. So resolving the impediments on day-to-day basis is what something being a Scrum Master we do. This is nothing to do with any application because this is a common responsibility being a Scrum Master you have to be good with. Next, tracking the progress because as I mentioned you, because Scrum is always a time boxing kind of week or 2, 3, 4 weeks, like right. That's within the timelines, you have to complete the work. That's where generally tracking the progress of works comes into picture. Next, involving in capacity planning. Involving capacity planning means where being a team, they should able in a position to track the progress of the work. So, for that, preparing some burn down charts, right? So burn up charts, all these things will be done so that we will be knowing about the progress of work, etc. Followed by capacity planning, as I mentioned you, right? So because what will be the team size, how many days or hours these people can spend on a day, in a week basis, on sprint basis, right? This is all something comes under capacity planning. There is a practical approach of doing capacity planning, which will be a separate. So which normally I teach us in my training, right? So there is a model for capacity planning, which we do. So that practical understanding is required. This is not something to do with theory. Next, velocity planning. Velocity planning means we need to see the velocity depends on the previous work which was done by the team. So how to calculate the velocity? To calculate the velocity, there are different parameters will be taken. That's so that we will be knowing about whether this sprint can be done within the specific timelines, or else whatever the release date we have planned so far can be delivered by us 100% or not, right? So for that, generally velocity planning is always needed. Next, assessing the Scrum maturity, because Scrum maturity by imparting the values and principles among the team is also one of the key responsibility as a Scrum Master we have to do. Last but not least, of course, this is the primary one I can say, because assisting the team in reaching the product goal is what's being a Scrum Master we do. So these are the common responsibilities which being into business Scrum Master role, any organization, whenever we are working for any project as a Scrum Master, either you may be a technical Scrum Master roles or you may be a combination of any other Scrum Master roles in the organizations. Whatever the responsibilities we need to be rendered, this is nothing to do with Pega as I'm mentioning here, because these are the general responsibilities any Scrum Master must discharge during the project. Now, when it comes to the Scrum Master in context to the Pega, how it is different. So Pega as a Pega Scrum Master, first of all, we must be knowing about the Pega tool as separate, because this is what generally the Pega tool is all about. So where whatever the kind of stories are we going to write, so the kind of implementation we are doing, so the kind of cases we are performing, right? So this sort of understanding is always required for a Scrum Master when it comes to the Pega point of view, right? So understanding about the PRC 5.x, 6.x, and as well as 7.x, any one version is always advisable. I don't say all these, but one version at least to an extent possible is always advisable. So this is what something which normally based on the case types and all everything is what something we do. Next, at the same time, we should have an understanding of our React.js and as well as its core principles, because this is where generally Java knowledge is always required. So you can see, because there are different tools can be used, right? So because Eclipse is an IDE, which is majorly used to work on the programming part, because whenever you want to have a knowledge over Java programming, right? So basic Java programming, at the same time, enterprise edition of Java, or else XML files, because whenever we are transforming the applications and all, normally there will be some XML files will be created over here. So XML files is also one of the key and important element which we have to be focused more on, because whenever we want to import or export files, the file formats may be XML, JSON. So that sort of understanding is always needed. So having a knowledge over XML, at the same time JSPs and all everything are, which is normally we call it as Java server pages, whenever we are developing a client server applications and all. This JSP is what something we use, because whenever we are developing client and server applications in Java, normally we will be using the servlets, JSPs, all these things will be used. At the same time, React.js followed by JavaScripting part, right? So to create any kind of web scripting and all everything, so React.js and all everything is required. So that also is needed. Next, enterprise Java means understanding over EJB is also one of the core and important element one must be good with. This is all comes under ATE part, right? So one is SE, second is EE. Means Java to SE, standard edition. Java to EE stands for enterprise edition. So this is all comes under the J2E part, EJB, all that. Next, knowledge over Scrum events and artifacts, like what are the Scrum ceremonies like daily Scrum, sprint planning, review, retrospections, in between daily Scrum meetings, how to conduct that. At the same time, what are the different Scrum artifacts we have, like product backlog grooming, right? So this sort of understanding is always required. So this is a combination of Scrum Master with Pega understanding. Next, we must be having a knowledge over the web technologies like JavaScripting and all, as I stated earlier, because whenever we are working on Java as a programming language we are using, it's always important for us to understand about the scripting part of Java. That's where generally JavaScripting is being used. Next, CSS, which is stands for cascading style sheets, because cascading style sheets are the one which is used to create an elevation for the web application. Because, for example, you are creating some web page and all, right? So if you want to create elevation for the XML, for example, HTML page we have created. HTML is a basic page we have created. To provide elevation for the project, to provide a grandiousness for the existing web page or a screen, just generally cascading style sheets is being used. So that application as well as the kind of front-end development, web development will be more attractive and it will be more user-friendly to the people it's being used. So for that reason, generally CSS, HTML for web pages and all, you know, right? So front page designings and all, everything, HTML is being used. And HTML code is also there because Java code is separate, because Java code is being used for the programming part. But when it comes to the HTML code is required. So we need to write down the HTML code to create front pages and all. At the same time, XML, because there are different file formats. We have something like XML, JSON and all. So XML file formats is also needed. Next, about project management skills, as I stated earlier, because whenever we are working on the project, it's always important for us to address the project management skills. This is also required. Next, we need to have a working knowledge over the Jira tool. That is where generally, which I told you, right? So when you were working on the Jira, it's always important for us to create different reports. This is where sometime back I told you, right? There's some report generations we can, something like we can go to features over here, right? So wherein we can enable reports over, right? So here you can see there is a report generation which we have to create. So there are different reports we prepare, something like burn down charts, burn up charts, all these things, velocity reports, as I stated in the beginning of my class, right? So these are all the knowledge is required. So working on Jira is also one of the key and important element. Being a Scrum Master, we must be good with. Because whenever we are working on any kind of projects, especially on agile environment, Jira is one of the key and prominent tool widely used across industries to develop the project. So it's a combination of the facilitation skills, team management skills, and all that. At the same time, whatever the impediments and all, we try to resolve those impediments, followed by having a knowledge over Jira. At the same time, having a knowledge over Pega in combination. In addition to that, having a knowledge over Java, right? So I don't say that expertise of 100% of Java is required. So if you are coming from that category, okay, it's fine. But sometimes, because some non-technical people may not be from the site, but end of the day, having a decent understanding over the Java programming and all everything is always advisable whenever we are moving towards technical Scrum Master roles, right? So this is what something which being into Scrum Master from the context of Pega, right? So or else uh, technical Scrum Master roles is all about. One must be good with. So this is what something which I usually provide. Usually there are two kind of trainings. One is about the general Scrum Master training will be provided usually. At the same time, Scrum Master from the technical perspective, having a knowledge, because now and then, as I mentioned again, repeating the same, technical Scrum Master roles were becoming more prominent. So knowledge over technical Scrum Master roles is always helpful, is always required for nowadays for any people whenever they are applying for the job opportunities. Uh, this is all about this. If you have any questions, if you have any queries. please reach out to the contact details, which will be posted in below to this video. Thank you.